Good morning, Matt. Thank you for joining me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. So this is a series of interviews that I'm doing with people that attended the London event last year. And it's just to give anyone that's wondering what the Birmingham event is all about a kind of feel for what people got from the day.
Okay.
So before we dive into the questions, I just wanted to say, because for anybody that doesn't know, you were instrumental in bringing the London event about. In fact, it was your idea that I can remember the day that you shared it. I saw that straight away. So I wondered if you'd share a little bit about how that came about and why you had that idea.
Sure. So, first of all, let me say that I'm a big believer in the power of words. And a lot of the work I do with clients is listening to the words they use, because words essentially create our world. And so I love that you've acknowledged me for, hey, Matt, it was your idea and you're instrumental in this, right? Because it was your idea. What I'd like to say to that is it was an idea that came to me that I couldn't not, I know it's a double negative, but I couldn't not run with. And like you said, you remember the day I posted about it in the group, in the Ultimate Coach group. When I posted that, and a couple of days later, a handful of people reached out to me, not all at the same time, but over the next few days after posting it, and said in some form or another, I had that idea come to me, but I never ran with it. And I'm so grateful that you ran with the idea, because now it's going to become a thing. I'm a huge believer in ideas are just out there in the ether and they drop into us, ready to be born in the world. And we're either going to grab them and run with them and we'll bring them to the world, or we won't. And if we don't run with them, that idea will float off and it'll go to somebody else and someone else will run with it. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I'm sure listeners might have experienced that they had an idea, maybe in the shower or whatever, didn't run with it. And then they saw somebody else do it and go, I wish I'd have done the thing, right? And that happened to me a few years ago. I had an idea come to me about something. It doesn't matter what it was, but I had an idea come to me about something. I never ran with it. And then it got birthed in the world, and it was this huge thing that like helped a lot of people. And when I felt like, I had that, but I didn't run with it and I could have done that, from that moment I committed that if I have an idea come to me again that really lights me up, I'm not gonna pass it up. I'm gonna go, okay. And so that's essentially what happened. Just to go like back a little bit, about 8 years ago, I was down on my luck, down in life, didn't know what to do, completely lost, didn't know who I was. And somebody recommended the video TBO LIT NFL to me. I watched that video and it was like the catalyst that just changed everything. And I didn't know who Steve Hardison was at the time. No idea who he was. But I searched him on Facebook, added him as a friend, like on that like friend request. His first message to me was, hey, something like, hey Matt, great to be connected, here's a free gift. And he gifted me a book of Steve Chandler's. I think it was 50 ways to improve your relationships, or 50 ways to have great relationships, something like that. It's like 8 years ago. And that was my first ever experience of Steve. And then following him on Facebook since then, it was just, he just kept giving and giving, and all these gifts that he kept giving out, whether it was just a one-word post or a line, I just consumed everything. He became like my unofficial coach, guru, mentor. So I just took everything from it. And I used to say, if it wasn't for Steve, my kids wouldn't have a dad. And so I put Steve on this massive pedestal of like, he's God, he's amazing, and like he's got all that, and he's the man, right? And I did this. This ties into the story a little bit as well, and it will really, really help the listeners if they listen for the gold in here. I always encourage people with my posts and my talks to listen for the gold, because there is gold in here if you listen for it. If you're sat in judgment and like, oh, this guy's just going on and talking, and when's he going to get to the point, you'll miss all of the gold that might be there for you. So I just want to encourage listeners to really listen for the gold. So I had Steve on this massive pedestal, like, oh my God, he saved my life. It's him, it's him, it's him. And then put all the power out there. But I'd never had a coaching session with him, never really interacted with him. And always wanted to be in his world, always wanted to get closer to him. And because he was really instrumental in the transformation of my life, and the fact that, like I said, I put it on him that he's the reason why my kids still have a dad. I was like, I want to meet this guy, I want to get into his world, I want to just thank it. Like, I want to be in his world to be able to thank him, right? But I was like, no, he's all the way in America and I'm in here. And at the time, my life was a mess. So I didn't have the money to be able to hire him as a coach or anything like that. But I had this desire for it, this internal desire to meet him, be with him, experience him, thank him in person. And then, like, fast forward a load of years and I hear about this book that's about Steve's life and all of the people that are in his life and all of the gold that would be in this book. And I was like, that's my, like, one step closer to Steve kind of thing. I was like, I got to get this book. Go on.
Can I just add something there? Because I saw the book when it came out as well. And I think it's fair to say at that time, there wasn't a lot of content about Steve, or that Steve had produced. The video that you mentioned, I'll post in the comments below, because that's one of my first experiences as well. So I think it's fair to say that there was quite some intrigue when the book came out, because there hadn't been anything else.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, I was the same. Like, the video was the only thing I could find of Steve online, and then it was just his post. But his post would usually be, "Oh, read this book," or "I recommend this." It was never really too much revealing him. And so when this book was, I was like, oh, it's almost like almost felt like a little bit naughty that I get to, like, almost get into Steve's life, like real, like, voyeuristic, like fly on the wall kind of thing. And I knew there would be so much there for me in it, but I didn't know what that would look like. But this calling inside was just like, just get the book. And so I ordered this book, and around the time of ordering that book, and then people say, like, there's a Facebook group for it, and I kind of got in, and again, I was fly on the wall, never interacted, because I didn't know anybody in Steve's world at this point. Didn't know anybody. And I heard that they was doing some kind of event in America about, like, a book signing is kind of what I heard about it, right? That was happening on I think it was the 24th or 28th of January. I think it was the 24th of January. So that was in my awareness a little bit that was going on. And I was like, oh, I'd love to go there and be there. But again, just because of life and what was going on, it just wasn't going to happen. So I got this book, and context around books on personal development. A few years ago, 3 years ago, I donated 300 books to charity that were all personal development books. So I've experienced a lot of books. I've read a lot of books around personal development, right? And I've had a lot in my possession. This was the first book that, when it came through the letterbox in the brown Amazon packaging, it came through the letter. I knew what it was, but you didn't know what it was. It came through the thing. I held it still in its packaging. I get goosebumps telling the story, because it's like it happened now. It's like it's happening again now. I held this thing almost like a newborn baby, and I just started to cry. And I'd never experienced that with any of the books I'd had before. I don't even know if I cried when my own children were born. But no, it was, I don't know what it was. It was just something. And I was like, okay, I'm here for this. Whatever this is and wherever journey this is going to take me on, like, I'm here for it. And so I got in the book and started reading the book. And then December 26th, 2021, it's a big tradition in our family. It's Boxing Day in the UK. And we'd always get together as a family, always, every year, without fail. Like, no excuses. That's what we do. And I woke up on Boxing Day, and so I've been meditating for about 7 or 8 years, and I'm very intuitive with what I do. And I don't usually do anything unless I get the nudge or the whisper or the voice inside to say, hey, go here, do this, whatever. Right? So I'm followed by intuition. I'm guided by intuition. And intuition says on Boxing Day, when I wake up, message your family and let them know that you won't be there today. Okay. So I do that. And then I'm like, okay, so what am I doing? It said, go for a walk. So I go for a walk, and really long story short, I'm stood in a field at one point during my walk, and I just feel myself open my whole body up to like the skies, the heavens, the world, life. And I say, okay, I'm ready for my next assignment. Like, send me what's next. I'm here for it. Whatever it is, I'm here for it. I'm open, life. Like, I'm here for it. Arms down, carried on my walk. Next day, December 27th, I'm at home getting ready to meet somebody for a lunch date at 12 o'clock. And I'd done my morning routine, meditation, everything. I'm getting ready. And at 11 o'clock on the dot, it said, it being the voice inside that I'd listened to quite a lot, said, go and sit in meditation. And I resisted a little bit because I'm like, no, I'm getting ready for a day. Like, we don't do meditation at this time of day. And it's like, go and sit in meditation. Okay, I only need 2 nudges. So I sit in a meditation. And within 5 minutes of sitting, eyes closed, just sat on my bed, I see an image, big room, stage, audience, and a banner like above the stage. And I'm like, okay, I'm seeing a vision. Cool. What's this? And the voice said, this is the Ultimate Experience London edition. And I'm like, okay. And the goosebumps are coming through again, just telling the story. And I was like, and then the voice said, and you're going to run it. Okay. Show me what to do next. And so there's a passage in, it's either The Way of Mastery or A Course in Miracles. And the passage goes, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to who? And so if I'm in a meditation, that's a little bit of my mantra sometimes in the meditation. Hey, life, God, universe, whatever word people want to use for that thing that's, we still don't really know what it is. I'll recite that. Hey, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to who? So when it says this is the Ultimate Experience London edition and you're going to run it, cool. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to who? And it said, go into the Facebook group and post about it. And so that's what I did. So I just go into the Facebook. I'm just following just what's coming through in that moment. I don't know anybody in the Facebook group. I don't think until that point I'd interacted in the Facebook group. I may have done. So if people find, oh, Matt, no, I found a thing from before that where you interacted. You said you didn't. I don't remember posting before or interacting before. So I posted this post. Hey, I've just done a meditation. Going to run the Ultimate Experience London edition. And the words were ask for help. Now, in the past, Matt Smith didn't ask for help because of what he made asking for help mean about him and his small self and his ego and his pride and all of that stuff, right? So just even doing that was like my edge. Hey, can I have help, please? And I just hit post, and it happened to be that the post went out at 11:11, and I was like, okay, that's alignment for me. So that's a little bit of the backstory about where it came from and how it came about.
I love that you've shared that, because I like, there's so much gold in there, about following your intuition, even though you don't know what's going to happen next, and the trust within that, and just the context of like who Steve was at that point and where the book has come from. I think that's really useful for people to know, that maybe just hearing about it for the like first time and stuff. So now it was no small thing. So I mean, in a lot of these interviews, I've asked like what people took away from the actual event. But before we get there, I think I'd like to ask you what your takeaways and growth and learning was from creating that and bringing it about, and interacting with the team, because a lot of people were involved in the day and offered help and everything. So I'd love to hear about what you got from that whole process.
Wow, we talk about that for a year. That's an amazing question. It really is like what I got from that. And one of the main things was almost like a death of an old self. And what I mean by that is, and I try my best to not place judgment on ways of being and how I've been or how others are being. So when I share what I share, it's not from a place of judgment saying that this is bad and this is good and this is the wrong way to do life and this is the right way. I'm not sharing it from that place. I want to be really clear on that. It's not from a place of judgment of how we're being. It's more from a place of that way, even though I thought was serving me, really, really wasn't. And the new way really, really is serving me. So the old way, before going into that event, there was still a big part of me that was, what can I get from things? What can I get out of this? Right? That was that. And there were so many miracles that happened. So when I posted about it in the group, I, again, never spoke to Steve Hardison through voice, maybe like interacted a little bit in the comment section on his Facebook post, but and at this point, he's still like God on this massive pedestal, right? And when I'm out so I post a post at 11:11, I go out to lunch on this lunch date. I can eat dessert with the best of them. If there's a dessert competition, I'm either coming first or second, right? Even if I've just had a 12-course meal before, there's always room for dessert, right? The biggest sweet tooth in the world, especially if it's salted caramel ice cream, right? So there's the context for what I'm about to say. I go to lunch, I have lunch, I order my salted caramel ice cream, really excited to get into it. And as they bring it down to the table, I take the first bite. I'm like, oh, this is delicious. I can't wait to eat the rest of this food. My phone flashes up. So I check it and it's a message from Steve Hardison. Matt, call me. So I'm having lunch in a nice restaurant with a bowl of ice cream and a beautiful woman by the side of me, and I'm having a panic attack right now. I'm having a full-on panic attack because Steve Hardison's message saying, call me. Like, my body's doing all sorts of weird stuff. So I didn't eat the pudding. I couldn't eat it. We finished the day. I go home. I sit for about 45 minutes trying to collect myself and be calm for this like once in a lifetime moment of speaking with Steve Hardison. And he calls me. So no, I call him and we chat. I say we chat, he spoke, I listened, again, in tears for the whole 45 minutes. And all Steve is doing in that 45 minutes is saying, you're the man, you're the guy for this, you've got this, you're the leader, this is going to be amazing, this is going to be, that's all he's speaking into me, like possibility and creation, right? There's no, hey Matt, I've seen your post, like, who are you? I don't know who you are, like, who do you think you are? There was none of that whatsoever, even though he didn't know me from Adam. Like, yeah, you've got this is amazing, let me connect you with a few people, like they'll help you and support you. Also get on a call with Eric because he's going to help and support you. He's got something for you, which he did. Like, Eric was phenomenal in that first call with him. Again, never spoke with Eric at all. And here I am, some guy who he doesn't know, just posting in his group, advertising like my own event, so to speak. So that was a really valuable conversation with Eric. But I was still coming from this place of what can I get? And then Steve said on the call, this is really important to the story and to answering your question. Steve said, have you got a date for it yet? And I was like, no, I haven't got a date for the event yet. I posted about it, but no date. He's like, cool. I'm actually in London around the 7th, 8th of May. I'm at a client called Devon Banderson's event. And I didn't know who Devon was at this time, right? If you do it that weekend, I might be able to swing by in the evening and just say hello. So my ego is going, I get to meet Steve Hardison. I'm like, Steve, it's on that weekend. It's on that date, thinking about me and what I can get from it. So I go in the group, post about it. It's on this date. Shortly after that, I get a few people messaging me. Hey, mate, you do realize you've advertised it's your event on the same weekend that Devon's doing an event? Yeah, and like, who even is this Devon guy? Like, this is my event. This is me. I can meet Steve Hardison, right? I can get things from this, right? And people are just like dropping the seed of maybe you should consider changing the event because there's a conflict of interest. Because if it's with the book and it's in like Steve's, I don't know if you want to call it brand or whatever you want to label it as, there'll be people that want to come to this one and want to go to Devon's as well because Devon's client Steve, and Steve refers a lot of people, recommends a lot of people to the Devon's event. And I'm still like resisting this. And I'm like, well, I don't care. Like, it's not about, this is about me, what I can get from it. And I'm driving one day and this voice whispers, change the date. It's the right thing to do. Change the date. Not that there's a right and wrong. It's just the right thing to do. Change the date. Okay, voice, because whenever I've ignored that voice, not great things have happened in my life. And whenever I've listened to that voice, miracles have happened. So I trust it implicitly. Okay, I'll change the date. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? And say to who? And the voice says, message Devon and speak to him first before you speak to anybody else. Before you advertise it anywhere else that you're changing the date, speak to Devon first. Now, I don't know Devon at all. We've never spoken at all. All I know, or all I think I know, is Devon knows me as the guy who's advertised an event on the same weekend in the same city as Devon, right? That's all I think he knows about me. Some guy who isn't in this world has advertised an event on the same weekend as him to almost the same audience.
Yeah. How did that conversation go?
And so I'm like, oh, really, God? Like, this is what you want me to do? Jesus. It's like, yes. So my ego resisted it for a little bit, my small self, what people think of me and all of that stuff. But eventually messaged Devon, hey, Devon, can we get on a call? He's like, sure, here's my number, give me a call. So I called Devon. And Devon, if you're listening, I'm going to do an impression of you. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult you in any way whatsoever, okay? I'm going to give it my best shot. But I want to give people like the real feel for it as much as I can. So I've got this image in my mind that he's going to be like angry at me, pissed at me. He's going to be like, who are you? What do you think? That's what I'm creating Devon as in my mind, by the way. And so the phone's ringing. He answers, this is Devon. Hey, Devon, it's Matt Smith. Hey, Matt, how's it going, brother? And I'm like, well, that wasn't expected at all. I'm like, and so I'm like a deer in the headlights at this point. I'm like, oh, all right, thanks. Even better with that reaction. How are you? Greatest day of my life, man. How can I help you today? I'm like, wow, I did not expect that from somebody who's running an event on the same weekend that I've just advertised that I'm running an event, right?
Mm.
Like, Devon, just want to let you know that I posted about the event. It's the same weekend as yours. I think the right thing to do is for me to change the date. So I advertised it for Saturday, the 7th of May, right? And he's like, yeah, man, that's cool. I really appreciate you reaching out. Thanks. And we had a bit of a chat. And then he said, so when's it going to be? And I didn't have a date in mind at this point at all. Nothing at all. So I'm on the spot. And then the voice says, just say it's the weekend before. It's the Saturday before. And I get goosebumps about this. So I'm like, it's the week before, Saturday before. Hey, great, man. If I can help in any way, if I can be there, like, I'd love to meet you and all this, like, all the best with it. And if you need anything, just let me know. Like, super friendly, super supportive. Like, Devon is there. Like, he's a real one. He's a good guy. And so something shifted in me with that.
Can I just bring attention to a couple of things that you've said? Because
Yeah.
I don't want people to gloss over them. But the first thing you mentioned was you announced this in the group.
Yeah.
Steve said, call me.
Yeah.
You got on that call and it was like 45 minutes of him telling you how great and how suitable you were to pull that event off. And then you mentioned getting ready to call Devon and having this idea that he'd be pissed and like angry. And I don't want people to gloss over that because it's one of my huge takeaways of how we create, like, with our language all the time. And if, like, obviously there's more than one thing, but one of the big takeaways that I've got was how I was creating Matt, my husband, in our marriage, and how and this isn't about, like, people being one way and you're trying to talk yourself into them being another way. This is about really seeing rather than looking for things that annoy you or could go wrong. It's about seeing the gold in people and speaking to that rather than everything else. So sorry to interrupt, but I just, that's
not at all.
huge, and I just wanted, I didn't want people to miss that.
Yeah, it's a very, very valuable takeaway. And like I said, that shifted something in me as well, is like how we're creating people in our minds before we even go into anything. I mean, like Devon's a very, very powerful guy and he creates himself very powerfully anyway. So even if I create him as whatever, it's very unlikely that he's going to be that. But again, this isn't about comparing other people. There's no judgment on other people, but a lot of the times how we're creating people is close to how they're going to be if we're creating that, especially if we're speaking it to them as well. And I've got some other stories of how I used to create people close to me from the past without going into too much detail on that a certain way, and they would only be that way. And then since shifting and creating them how I want them to be, even if it's just in my mind, they start showing up differently. So there's so much power in how we're creating other people.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, it's absolutely fine. It's a perfect interruption, and there is so much gold in that. There's so much gold in how we're creating other people. And so that shifted like something massive in me with like, okay, let's drop the expecting people to be a certain way and just be open to what's present. And so I go in the group and I edit the post. We're changing the date from the 7th. And I didn't know at this point what the weekend was before that, what the date was before that. But I'd said on the phone to Devon, it's the Saturday before. It flowed, words just flowed through me. So I go to my calendar. As I'm doing the post on Facebook and editing it, I go to the calendar in the corner of my computer, I bring it up and I write 7th of May, April, what's the week before that, the Saturday before? Oh, that turns out to be Saturday the 30th of April. And I say, oh, because that turned out to be my birthday. Not planned, not intended, nothing. I was like, oh, that's a cool little miracle that I hadn't tried to coordinate that. And that's just how it was. Message Steve straight away. Hey, Steve, we changed the date. It's going to be Saturday the 30th. Will you be there? Hey, Matt, thank you for that. It's highly unlikely because I'm on holiday with my wife. Mm-hmm. However, never say never. And so for a little bit of context for people, like a little bit about me and how I operate from a place of anything is possible. I have a tattoo, the infinity symbol on me to remind me that there are infinite possibilities and with infinite potential, and we are infinitely powerful and we can create whatever we desire. Right? That's the energy and place that I come from. I don't really live too much in the real world of what's there. Devon does this thing about reported world versus created world. But Devon can speak on that, and I highly recommend go to the game changer event of Devon's. It is game changing as well. So there's that. And so that's the world like I live in. So when I hear somebody say something, if it doesn't align with the vision that I want, I don't spend too much time focusing on that. I'm like, okay, Steve said he's on holiday, but I believe infinite possibilities. Like anything's possible. So we create the group. We have the people in the group. We're doing weekly calls. And I'm like, right, we're going to get our energy behind. Steve's going to be at the event. That's all I want people to speak about and think about, that Steve will be at the event. And some people are like, oh, no, he won't. He's on holiday with Amy. If you know Steve, he does what he says he's going to do. And if he's on holiday with Amy, who's planned this holiday, it ain't happening. And I'm like, no, let's keep the energy on what we do want rather than what we don't. This is another huge takeaway from me, more of a confirmation of what I already believed than anything else. I'm like, no, anything's possible. Even if the Steve Hardison, who creates his world so powerfully with his words, has said it's highly unlikely or not probable, we can still get him there.
Yeah. I noticed it wasn't a no.
It wasn't a no.
Yeah.
It wasn't a no. And so, again, another takeaway, it's not about what I got from it. What I got was the power of giving. There's so much power in giving. There's so much power in giving. Like the 33 people that were in that group, in the team. And again, I could spend forever and a day just acknowledging every single one of those people, what they gave to that event, what they gave to me to help me bring it to life. Like I really didn't do anything other than bring the vision to life and show up in a few of the group calls and do some posts on social. I didn't really do much, right? So what these guys gave, and the women, and the men and the women and the people in the group gave, was just phenomenal. Like how much they gave is just the power of giving, and seeing the miracles that happens in their life as well, and what's gone on in their lives since. Just as a, not that they didn't give in order to get something back. They gave and they received, right? there's so much power in giving. And so as this whole experience went on from the 27th of December when I announced it all the way through to 30th of April, and even still like to today, but definitely in that window, there was so much death of my old self. I had to meet so much of my old self. What can I get? I'm limited, I'm small. Even though I've done like a lot of work on that anyway, beforehand, it was still showing up. What can I get from this?
Yeah.
Right. And what I got was the letting go of there's so much power in not trying to get anything, letting life move through you, and the miracles that show up because of that are off the charts. Like there was one point where, again, eventually Steve said yes. We were about, I don't know, about 6 to 8 weeks out from the event. I just dropped my car off at the garage to have the brakes done. And I asked the guy, I was like, hey, how long is this going to take? Because I'll go and potter around in town for a bit. And he was like, about 90 minutes. As I walked out of the garage, I get a message from Steve. Hey, Matt, are you free for a call? I got something I want to talk to you about. Yeah, I'm free. He's like, how long have you got? Because this is going to take about 90 minutes. And I'm like,
Perfect.
funnily enough, Steve. And I'm a big believer in there are no coincidences. Someone, I think it was Einstein that said, coincidence is a God's way of remaining anonymous. I'm like, oh, okay, because I followed this thing that life wants to do. It's gifting me this stuff. And again, we spent 90 minutes on the phone, and that was almost like a powerful coaching session in itself. So when I go back to the story of like my desire was to get in Steve's world and have a coaching session with him, but don't know how it's going to happen, I essentially got that there.
Yeah.
And one of the things I will share is no matter how people are being in his life, he meets them with love. And I won't share the story he shared around it, but he shared a story about something that happened in his life or that might happen in his life. And he said, even if this really bad thing happens and I was faced with it, I'm still going to say to this person, I love you. Even if they want to do harm to me, I'll still say, hey, I love you. And so I sat with that because there was a few times in the group where, or leading up to the experience, where it felt like, and this is my own projection, it wasn't real, but it felt like, for example, like we were planning the day of who was going to speak and the speakers and everything, and I was just like, hey, can I have my moment on stage? Like, I want to talk from stage and share the message of this is what's possible when you listen to spirit or God or higher self and you run with it, right? Because what better person to share what's possible than the person who's actually physically doing it? And I was met with, sorry, Matt, but you're not going to be on stage. You're not going to be speaking. And so when I hear that from certain people, resentment builds and a bit of FU energy. I'm like, this is my event. How dare you say I can't speak at my event, right? And so I went back into small self and judgment and criticism. And so one of the biggest things there was, like I said, with the conversation with Steve, that was so timely with all of that happening, was actually, you know what, just learn to send these people love.
And it was funny because on the actual day, Amy said something like, we'd booked this trip to Scotland, and we were thinking of nipping down to London for a day, and how suddenly from everything that people were giving, you know, from the love that they had and the energy that they had behind it, it turned into something bigger, where they were coming over for the London event and we were going to squeeze in a bit of the holiday.
Yeah.
And it's so, I love what you're saying about this parallel journey of, you know, like it was my event, I was wondering what I was going to get out of it, I wanted to speak, and how the event became bigger, and also you did too, and I think that's really, I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's thank you for noticing, because that's the okay, to answer the question of what did you get from it, it was almost like a new way of being, where now in my life there is no resistance, and even if resistance comes up, it's gone very, very quickly. There's no feeling of separation from others, and even if it comes up, it's gone very, very quickly. There's no fear of what I'm going to get, or if I'm going to get my needs met or get something from it. There's none of that. And even if it comes up, it's shifted very, very quickly. So that's what I got from it, is just a new way of being. And if this concept of being is alien to some people, essentially how we're being is what's going to create our experience, in short. And we might think that how we're being is the only way to be, or it's just who we are. And I thought that for a very long time. And my ego put up a lot of resistance to changing who I am, almost changing identity.
Yeah.
But it's like life put this here for me. And I know I'm not the center of the universe, but we're the center of our own universes. And life is always supporting us into the greatest expression, expansion of ourselves and our truth. And the old way of being was, what can I get? What can I get? What can I get? And this new way of being is, how can I give?
I love that. And I think I'm going to wrap it up there, because like my husband came down, and I think he was convinced that the whole day would be an opportunity to kind of build people up, rally them up, and then sell them something, And one of the things that he was hugely surprised by was that no one was getting paid. All the money was going to the charity.
Yeah, Dad's house charity. Yeah.
Yeah. And similarly with the Birmingham event, that people are coming together to create something that's got infinite kind of possibilities for people that attend, but also they're creating it in such a way that people benefit anyway, like before anyone's actually walked in the door. And I think that's such a beautiful way to end. And I'm really pleased that we didn't just dive into the what did you get from the event, because it's given us a real glimpse into, all these people are giving, they're giving the time, they're giving the energy. It's not an easy thing to pull off, and it's really beautiful to see that, people got something from that too, like their own growth or their own insights. So yeah, I really appreciate us going down that line. I think you said it right at the start. There's goals in here for anyone who wants to listen. So if anybody missed it, I'm going to suggest that they go right back to the beginning and watch it all again.
I love that. Can I just say one last thing at the end?
Yes, definitely.
First of all, I really appreciate you again inviting me in and giving me a chance to share a bit of my story and about the experience. If people are listening to this or watching this that are even considering going to the Birmingham event, do whatever you can to be in that room. I get nothing from it at all. I want nothing. I need nothing. I'm good. Please do whatever you can to be in that room. Especially, go even if your life is great and everything is just, every area of your life is a 10, go anyway, because you'll take it to an 11, right? And you'll serve and help so many other people who aren't at a 10 just by you being there and being a demonstration of that. But if any area of your life is not the way you want it to be, or anywhere of you, any part of you is not how you want it to be, please go and give yourself the gift of being in that room. Give yourself the gift of being in that room. You're not going to go and give money so that they get money in the charity. Like, that's a byproduct anyway. But give yourself the gift of being in that room. And I'm lost for words. All I've got is goosebumps over my whole body about the miracles that can and will happen when you're in that room, the miracles that can and will happen in your life, even just by committing to being in that room. Things are going to show up for you before. Life supports life, and this thing that's being birthed in the world, and Matt and Fiona are doing, and the team are doing a phenomenal job of being we called ourselves like midwives to the Birmingham event, because we're like, we're not creating anything, we're just birthing this thing that's going to be in the world anyway. please give yourself the gift. Do whatever you need to do to get in that room. Do whatever you need to do. Even if you need to sell all the clothes in your wardrobe on whatever online site to make money to get the ticket, get yourself a ticket. And stay open to miracles and listen for the gold, and it will transform your life. I promise you.
I think as well, it's easy to think that, oh, it's a weekend event, you know, I've got this on and that on and stuff, but it's not. Like, the changes that you've experienced and that others, like, they don't suddenly disappear when you walk out the room at the end of the day. You take those with you. So I think I just invite people to look at it like that. Like, whatever
Yes.
you see or feel or experience during that weekend, it's that will go with you at the end of the day.
It will. It's not like any other event or experience. It's really not. It's not. Like this, the London thing is still giving to me, even with this experience that we're having right now. And I know it's cliche, like if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? If I can make the change, anybody. I know it's cliche and you hear that all the time, but really, like if I can do it, and 9 years ago, I was on my way to commit suicide. My life was that bad. I was on my way to leaving my little boy and my unborn daughter. She was in her mum's tummy. I was on my way to ending my life forever, for good. That's who I was being. I'm not good enough. People are better off without me. All of those, that was my way of being before. It's not now. I love life. I want technology to happen where I can live forever because I love this stuff. I absolutely love it. I really, really do. And if I can make that shift, like anyone, I'm not saying you need to be in that place, but if I can make the change, and I had so much almost weight trying to pull me back into an old way of being and keep me at that way of being. Like my ego was real strong and built up. This is who we are and this is us in the world. And it would put up a real resistance. And even I can let that go and drop it and step into whatever and whoever it is I am now, and letting life move through me and having miracles like this happen. Like, this is my favorite way to start a Friday morning. So I'm blessed that like, I did my morning routine. I've been thinking about it like all week and meditating on it and being with it this morning and getting ready for it. So if it wasn't for the event, I wouldn't have had that experience this morning. And I really can't emphasize enough how amazing it will be and how much people deserve to be in that room. Because I know there'll be people like, oh, it'd be great, but I don't deserve to have the miracles. I'm not good enough for that experience. Do whatever you need to do to get that out of your way.
I'm the same for me.
Say that again.
I said, or they may be thinking it won't be that way for me. You know, I'm different.
Yeah. And that's the first part of it, is being aware of that way of being, those stories that are going on. I don't get to have these experiences. It won't happen for me. It happens for everybody else. I used to be that guy. They get it, but I don't. They get it, but I don't. It's not for me. Listen, if I can go from that way of being, and that was what I was experienced, I'd see everybody else get the good and the good experiences, but I wouldn't get it. But I've moved that way out of the being that I get to have it too. Not that I get to have it and you don't. We all get to have it. And because I stepped into that way of being first, before I tried to get the evidence out in the world, I embodied that way of being first. And people might have started to hear about the document and where you're being and everything. Because coming from that place, no, I get to have it too. Not only did I end up speaking on stage, even though I was not down to speak on stage and I was told you won't be speaking on stage, right? That miracle was created, with another story for another day. But before that, one of the speakers, the amazing, gorgeous, talented, beautiful, intellectual, wonderful, epic human being that is Karan Rai, stood up on stage and said, oh, by the way, it's a certain someone's birthday today. Matt, get up on stage. He pulls me up on stage, unplanned, unknown to me, and gets 500 people to sing happy birthday to me on my birthday in London, right? And it's not, oh, Matt's special and that doesn't happen to. I used to be the guy that stuff like that doesn't happen to. But because I shifted way of being and let go of the old way of being, stuff like that can happen. And it's not a look at me and how great I am. I don't need any of that validation or approval or recognition. I need nothing. I need nothing. I need nothing. I'm good. Okay. I am good. I want to share that as a demonstration of what's possible when you get out your own way, face your old ways of being that are no longer serving you. It doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. It's just, is it serving me and is it creating the life that I want? If it's not, you can let that go and you can create a new way of being. And the team and everyone at the Birmingham event are there to support you in that before, during, and after.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much for agreeing to this.
My pleasure.
And yeah, what a beautiful way to start a Friday morning. Thank
It
you,
really
Matt.
is. Victoria, thank you so much. Send you lots of love.
And you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.